I was checking myself and something didn't feel right. And I go, Teresa, I'm gonna go to the doctor. Something doesn't feel right. And so I go to my doctor to get checked out, and he goes, I'm gonna send you to a specialist. I'm like, what's going on? I'm just gonna send you just to get a second opinion. I'm like, okay. So I go to a specialist, and he goes, well, you don't need a third opinion. I know what you have. You have testicular cancer. I just started crying. I didn't know, it's just, and I don't want to die. And I just remember hearing this awful, this nothing I've ever heard from her. This awful cry. I've never heard her cry like that. It was like not a moan. It's just something I can't explain. It was just awful hearing that from her. So I know she was just in pain, not knowing what's going on with me.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mike Check Real Life. I have the distinct pleasure today to welcome my good friend, Jeff Hernandez. Jeff and I have actually known each other for a little over a year now, but it seems like we've known each other much longer. He's just one of those individuals that after meeting him and his family, they're just such amazing people. When I asked Jeff if he'd be willing to come on and share his testimony, he was more than happy to. And he's been preparing for today and getting ready so that he can share some hope with those that are still out there looking for what matters. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeff. Where are you from? Who are you?
Well, I was born in San Jose, California, and raised in Carmel, California.
Okay. So where's that in relation to the Orange County area?
Oh, it's far away. It's more north, so it's
Okay.
definitely far away from that. It's more like towards San Francisco area.
Okay. All right. So yeah, my wife is from Orange County. My best friend is actually from San Jose area.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of the town he was from, but anyway. So let's go ahead and I guess start at the beginning. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your life.
I've lived a great life. It's just that I cannot complain. But what comes along with that is trials, which you're gonna hear from me right now. Up to like 1989, I was about 4 years old, going on 5. Everything was great. I thought life was perfect. I had a beautiful house, a solid family, friends, everything that you can dream of. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything other than that. I think, as Mike said in another episode, I thought lived the Leave It to Beaver lifestyle. Everything was good, and I thought everything was good. But then something happened. My dad all of a sudden was gone, and one day, from what I remember, my mom was telling me my dad was in the hospital, but I didn't really know the full scale of things. I'm gonna circle back, but he ended up going to prison. So my mom told me, obviously for reasons, that, hey, dad's in the hospital. That's where he's at,
Yeah.
and I understand why. She
Right.
had to. Some people say, oh, it's lying, but she did it. Since I was a little boy, I don't need to know that information during that
Right.
time. So from what I remember going to court one time. It was very confusing. Little things started adding up, even
Sure.
as a kid, if I didn't know the full story during that time. I remember being in court, and remember being able to see my dad on the other side of that little fence area where they have them, whoever's being defended or whatever. And
Right.
I remember him holding back tears, and my brother and sister holding him, and I just remember the tears in his eyes. And obviously, I'm a little confused of what's going on. And then I remember seeing him, like, the first time I actually get to see him again. I thought it was a hospital. My mom said, we're going to the hospital to go see
Right.
dad, because and it made sense to me because my dad has he has a big scar right here, but I guess the cops bashed his face into the road, from what my dad told me. And so everything made sense. Like, that's why dad's in the hospital, because of the bad injury he had on his nose. And so I remember there was metal detectors, and well, this is weird. And I remember I had overalls on, and they was beeping, and the officer or whatever made me go back, and I was like 4 years old at the time, and they had to undress in front of everyone. So I was in my underwear because I couldn't go through the metal detector, and until I took off my overalls, and there was no dressing area. I just had to strip down. I was in my underwear. It was so embarrassing as a 4-year-old, and from what my mom told me, later on when I found out everything, she was telling me that, this stuff was in the papers. That's embarrassing for her, and she goes from, I want to make clear, I love my mom and dad. They're great parents. I want to just make that clear.
Right.
They've done everything. They did everything that was best for me.
So just for our listeners, one of the things that when we come in here and we share our testimony, We all love our parents. Some of us had parents that may have made mistakes. In no way do we ever come in here with the intention of bashing our parents. You know, the word tells us to honor our mother and our fathers, and we do everything in our power to do that. However, as children, when parents make life choices or there's situations that they may find themselves in as children that may affect us in some certain ways. And so in telling these testimonies, that is by no means in any way for us to be shaming our parents. We'll leave a lot of stuff out just so we don't do that. So please, by all means, let's keep the comments nice too, because I've seen a couple times in the past in comments where people have tried to bash parents. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to do that.
And thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so I remember too, like coming home one day. It was the evening time. I remember my room was thrashed, almost like an earthquake happened. And I'm like, I didn't know what happened at the time, but I guess the feds went through our home, went through everything, tried to obviously find information or stuff. And my mom went from being pretty much a stay-at-home mom to now working 2 to 3 jobs, and so I can't imagine what she went through, and I, thank her for everything. But eventually the feds took our home because it was not purchased the correct way, and it wasn't in my mom's name, so that was gone. So there goes, go from this great big house into renting and moving here and there, and not knowing the full scale of things. It's like, still wondering things, and slowly I started putting stuff together. Because then like later on, I think in 1992, remember my mom was waitressing. She was doing like so much waitressing jobs. I remember like one day I hear a call and I answer, and it was another man's voice, and I started putting two together that maybe mom and dad are probably not going to be together anymore. And I don't know when they decided that it's going to be a separation. I don't know when that happened, but I realized it's like, okay, this is not going to happen again, and it's going to be okay. So he wasn't my stepdad at the time, but he's a good man. He took care of my mom, and my mom found that happiness again. But then 1994, my dad gets out. I think I was 9 at the time, and I remember him getting out and him getting in the car. I was in the back seat still. My mom's right there, and then they must have been talking about something and just basically saying their goodbyes. And then he ended up telling me the story of everything that happened to him. Which I told you earlier what he was in trouble for. And he told me anything I asked him, he told me. It wasn't a shock because I knew something wasn't correct in the story I was told. And so he just started, being an ex-con. He starts getting a job, working. I'm still visiting back and forth with him. I was living with my mom, but I would see him on the weekends almost every weekend. And things were getting back to normal with that. My dad's back in town. I was getting that. He was gone during those crucial years of my life, but still young enough to still like be there at the same time. But then I think he started getting, he grew up very poor, and he just knew how to survive. And I think when he went back into the work world, we go from a guy that's being his own boss and running things. This is probably, I can only imagine a crazy transition in life, But I think I know he started falling back into his old ways. And I don't know how long after. But it's one of those things we just didn't talk about, you know what I mean? It's, dad's doing what dad does, and, my dad, I think I told you the other day, my dad is a great dad. He's made some wrong choices in life, but this man will literally give you, I'm not joking, he would give you his last dollar just to make sure you can eat. I've seen this man take in homeless people just so they can be off the street for a couple of days. I mean, he does all that, I mean, he has like, even now he doesn't have much of anything. All he wants is to make sure his family's taken care of. And he's accomplished that. And I thank him so much for that, and I'm going to flash forward to about 2005, I'm already, I think I'm in college and, living in early 20 person's life, or someone's in their 20s living the life, partying, I always had my, I was born Catholic, but I was never a practicing Catholic. I always had my belief in God. I would make my pray when I needed something back then. I was definitely partying too much, and then in 2005, this has been so many times where the Lord just stepped into my life and it's just like, I'm here. And like this story right now, I was going, I had a 2005 SVT Cobra, and I was jamming on the highway. I ended up double clutching, and for those who know what that is, I was doing something that was not good. And and I lost control of the car, and I didn't, since it was a stick, and I was fairly new to driving a stick shift, and I couldn't gain control of it. So I'm where I was. It was a highway called the 205, and it's nothing but hill on the right side when you're driving. So my car was going towards that, and it's all hill.
Right.
But I felt, and this is me saying this, I felt like something took control of my wheel. Even as much as I was trying to fight and steer it for myself, I felt someone countering, like it was countered, like it was like, no, you're going this way. And it was like I ran into, like, it was like a little solar panel, but it was on a pole. And so I hit that, and I guess I hit the curb, flip in the air, smashed into the pole.
Wow.
And the car landed upside down. So when I came to, I was trying to get out, and I saw the cars coming towards my way on the highway, and I'm like, oh, I can't go that way. And so I decided, first thing you want to do is unbuckle. And I'm like, I can't get out. Why is that? And I look up, and my hands pinned underneath the hood and the pavement. So I'm like, oh, and I'm seeing kind of stuff pour out. I'm like, I don't know if it was gas. I'm like, oh, I need to get out of here. I don't know what this is, but it can't be good. So I'm trying to get out. I'm like, okay, I just got to do what I got to do. So I just ripped my hand out and shredded the whole hand. Now you can probably see the scars, what's left. And it was this, whenever I find the picture, I'll show you. It's disgusting. So I squeeze out of, like, because my passenger window was crushed, but I managed to squeeze out of it. And two people stopped, and one happened. I think she had to be a nurse, and some other guy helped me, and they wrapped my hand. And I wish I got their names so I can thank them. And but the ambulance took me, and the doctor looks, does the scans on my hand. I'm just waiting, and he just looks in disbelief. He goes, "I can't believe it. You did not break a single bone in your hand. There's nothing dislocated." I mean, obviously it's torn up and, severe bruising, but it's like, he's all nothing. I knew right away before I became on this walk, it was all thanks to him, because it's just that hand should have been broken.
Sure.
I mean, it took a while to even get back movement in my first couple of fingers. And so I was like, it was supposed to happen. You know what I mean? I was just reckless with my car. I shouldn't even had it.
I have a few of those stories.
Yeah, whenever someone goes like, "Hey, Jim, like, you like this car?" No, I'm good. I'm content with my four banger. I'm good.
Notice I don't have muscle cars in my driveway anymore.
And then in late 2005, I run into what be the love of my life, my wife Teresa. So that was just a game changer for me. I think our story's for like another thing, but it's long.
Yeah, and we can do that. We can talk, especially when we get the right one, when God sends the right woman in our lives. And that story is miraculous and amazing for what it does for us, which is why we're going to put together a whole different segment of couples. And so you can touch some of it, but let's save the good stuff for that.
Absolutely.
Segment.
I just randomly met her, and I'm going to tell you this story because it's funny. Because I was back in 2005, I was, living the great life. I told I see her at a cell phone kiosk.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get her number. I had a girlfriend at the time. It tells what kind of a kid I was back then. And I go, hey, can I get your number? And I was not 21 yet, and she's a little bit older than me. And she goes, come back when you're 21. And then all my friends are just laughing behind the scenes in the corner. I'm like, oh, man, she got me good. But literally a year later, I run into her again. I get her number. We do some long distance dating. We end up getting married. And obviously, I'll tell the whole story one day, hopefully. But yeah, that was just, who knows what I would have been doing if I didn't meet her. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine being good. I just know it wouldn't be good. If you really think about it, it's just really interesting to think about. I think it's divine intervention. It was allowed to happen. I could have easily got into the life my dad was doing, and I can see it being really like enticing. Like, this is easy money. I can live good. But God allowed it to happen. I was not supposed to be doing that type of stuff. And it's really, I can go down a rabbit hole. I think about this daily of what could have been, but He has a plan for us.
Right. Yeah. When Melissa and I met, we were both dating other individuals. Actually, she was just trying to get out of a relationship. And when we met, she was actually with the guy that she was dating at the time. I was dating somebody, but this particular individual, she had gotten in some trouble similar to your dad's, and she was tied up for the time being, and the relationship was separating anyway because some of the other stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And so, yeah, I've been there where you're in a relationship, but you're not really committed.
Yes.
And start. Yeah. Anyway, here we are.
Yeah.
Married years later. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's even hard to explain to my kids because I'm trying to raise them. We are raising them the right way, but it's always I always think about, it's like, how am I And I always tell them like, this is what happened. I'm not saying it's the right way, but
Mhm.
it was allowed. I'm not,
Right.
I'm not saying don't do what I do.
Right. Well, we know that even in our decisions, we can make bad decisions, but God can make the good things come from bad decisions.
Yes.
The fact that I'm sitting here today doing this and sharing testimonies with individuals is all based in experience that I gained when I
Hmm.
was out making bad decisions. When I first got into podcasting years and years ago, I wasn't in a good way. When I had my first AM radio show, I wasn't in a good way. And yet here we are today now. And
Yeah.
he's utilizing that training in those not good ways experiences to further his kingdom. So it's really good that we can recognize that. If you could like and share this episode so we can get the word out to those that need to hear it. We really are trying to be an encouragement here for those that are out there still struggling in life. And we'd like to be able to offer some hope. So even if this episode doesn't speak to you personally, everybody knows somebody that's out there struggling. And if you could just help us reach them, that would be so amazing. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you could subscribe, that helps the algorithms show that this is actually of value. Also, if you're listening to the podcast audio on any of the many podcast hosting sites that we're on, if you wouldn't mind rating our program, that would help us in the algorithms there. So thank you so much, and God bless.
Eventually, I was planning on telling her, it's just timing. How do you explain that, what your dad does for a living? And so I told her, I go, hey, I have something to tell you. I explained what my dad was into and what he does, and they got him. And obviously, she was definitely shocked, and she was probably, I guarantee she's probably a little hurt, and I would probably be too, you know what I mean? You're just thinking all these years of dating someone, you think you know someone, but you don't fully know them.
Right.
And I remember that day, pretty sure that night, me and some other family members, we drive to a bail bonds place, where I think we had to raise like 10 grand, which, we had enough credit cards to make it happen. So we go there to get him out, on bail. And within that time frame of like minutes, the bail will jump from 10,000 to $1 million.
Oh my goodness.
And I think it was personally they just wanted to see who would come up with that type of money. That's my opinion. So we can get dad out. And so I think this is back in Fresno, Bakersfield, California, where he was held at.
Okay.
And so we're in a predicament how we're going to defend dad. How we're going to pay for this. We don't have that. I don't have that type of money. None of us did. And it's just I can only imagine. My mom wasn't with him, but it probably brings back flashbacks. Like, I'm sorry, kids, this is what I went through before.
Right.
And it's just like, but still, your dad. We have to do something. But luckily, a family member stepped in, and we got the money to defend him. And he was a very good lawyer, and he seemed very confident. He goes, it's just because my dad was doing it was to be federal this time. I think they wanted to put him in for maybe life this time because this was his second offense.
Right.
But they were trying to blame him for all the dealings in Northern California, and it wasn't to that extent. So, but it is what it is. And we had to go to a couple times to court, and we wrote letters to the judge, and the judge let him out for until he had to go in. It's like kind of like a probation.
Personal recounting.
Yes,
kind
exactly.
Of a thing. Yeah.
But he's like he was in our custody, kind of.
Okay.
And I think that was around. So he was able to. I was very happy that he was able to go to our wedding, attend our wedding. He got to see me get married, and that was a blessing. So happy about that. To have everyone there. And what's funny. Like later, like I remember before he went back in, I was watching the FBI files. And I see his lawyer on the show. I'm like, oh, okay. And not too long after, he has to go back in. But the lawyer was really good. He had to go, do federal time, but it was like almost in a trustee prison where there was no fence. There's nothing, it was like a trustee area. So he did I think it was almost 5 years there, but we were able to see him and stuff like that. So we survived that as a family. And so let's go to 2008. I'm just on the couch and in my second apartment. Me and Teresa are married. We're just hanging out in the apartment. I remember sitting on the couch and so I was checking myself and something didn't feel right. And I go, Teresa, I'm gonna go to the doctor. Something doesn't feel right. And so I go to my doctor. to get checked out, and he goes, "I'm gonna send you to a specialist." I'm like, "What's going on?" And he goes, "No, no, I'm just gonna send you just to get a second opinion."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh," I was kind of nervous, but not okay. I'm like, "Well, okay." So I go to a specialist, and I forgot the doctor's name, but it doesn't matter. Um, and he goes, "Well, you don't need a third opinion. I know what you have." He goes, "You have testicular cancer." I just started crying. I didn't know, it's just, and I don't want to die. And he's smiling at me. He goes, "I'm not going to let you die." But, I think I was 25 years old, 26. I'm like, no one in my family's ever had that. And there's not even an explanation for back then when I was told and why people get that.
Yeah.
And, I remember leaving the hospital and I didn't want to call Teresa right away because she was at work. I didn't know how to tell her. So I called my mom and I'm such a joker. My mom thought I was joking. I go, "Mom, I have testicular cancer." And she goes, Jeffrey, don't joke. Or I can't remember what she said,
Mhm.
but I'm like, I was just crying. And she knew us. I was telling the truth and she's trying to comfort me as best she can. And I knew she didn't know what to say at that moment, but she was trying to comfort me. And my wife, I remember I called Teresa and I am on my way home. I go, "I'll tell you when I get home." And I just, because I didn't want anything to happen on the way home for her, I knew she would
Right.
cry. And I just remember hearing this awful, this nothing I've ever heard from her, this awful cry. I've never heard her cry like that. It was like not a moan. It's just something I can't explain. It was just awful hearing that from her. So I knew she was just in pain, not knowing what's going on with me. So I get home and I remember just grabbing my little Yorkie at the time, just holding him and crying. No, it's my only little thing that can comfort me
Yeah.
at that moment. So I'm just holding him and just crying for hours. For I felt like hours, probably wasn't that long. And then Teresa gets home and I tell her, yeah, and she's crying. And so eventually, obviously, I keep, within 2 weeks, I was in surgery. It was that quick. It was that far gone. And so it was fast. It was like I remember just being under, and they're like, "Hey, just count backwards," and I
Right.
was out. And
Yeah.
and I woke up and looking around, and I'm like, they're all and no one's around. Everyone was absent from my little room, I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
where's everyone?" I'm like, "Whatever." So, from what I was told, and once I can get up, I can go home. And I'm not one to lie down. I just wanna
Right.
get up. And as soon as I
Understandably.
get up, I remember seeing I thought I pooped myself, and I was telling the nurse, I'm sorry," and she's laughing at me. She goes, "It's iodine."
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay." And, so I get up and struggling to get up because it's almost like, it's gonna sound funny the way I say this, but it's almost like I have a C-section right here. That's where
Okay.
they took it out.
Okay.
And, so I just get to the bathroom as because I was hurting, but I'm like, "I'm not gonna stay here. I don't wanna be in this hospital. I
Right.
wanna be out." And so I did my thing and was able to leave not too long after that.
Mhm.
Um, and then
So it's because you listened to my testimony,
mhm,
and I've got my experience with the diagnosis of cancer back in '98. So I was 30 years old in '98. So young guys. Now, for me, when I got that diagnosis, I always thought of myself as this big, tough guy. Nothing, I
mhm,
was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. The impact of a diagnosis like that, for those that have never experienced that, it's quite shocking because when you're young, you just feel like nothing can happen. And then you've got to figure out how, for some reason, and I don't know what the reason is, but there's this level of shame that actually washes over. You feel like it's your fault. And then you've got to explain to the people that you love how, there's this diagnosis. Mine personally, the prognosis wasn't real promising. And then I've got to go and tell the people that love me that, I'm sick and I may not make it through this. And I'm supposed to be the big tough guy. And how am I going to do this and everything? And so that it can be pretty impactful for nobody's ever experienced that. So I don't know if your situation was similar, but I'm sitting over here and I can actually feel because I lived it. I can
mhm,
actually feel it's a type of torment that goes
mhm,
on. There's some shame, some guilt, fear.
mhm,
At that age, you're not known for fear. Obviously, you talk about the way you used to drive and all the
mhm.
things you used to do. Fear probably wasn't a big thing in your life back then.
Nope.
And then all of a sudden you get this diagnosis. Like now, how do you deal with something you've never experienced or experienced very little? Yeah.
And so the next couple years is just, so they wanted to see those levels go down even after
Right.
the procedure.
Yeah,
So
always in the testing.
yeah, so I was still doing the testing and so I was doing these CT scans,
Mhm.
chest scans, blood work, and anyone know who ever does CT scans, you have to drink this awful liquid
Awful.
called I think it's barium,
Yep.
and it's
Yeah.
awful.
The nuclear,
Yes.
yeah, medicine. Yeah.
And so the levels weren't coming down the way they wanted. And so another doctor was saying we might have to go up if we had, he's the doctor. This other doctor suggests that we should go up and operate and open me up and go up kind of towards the sternum area to
Mm-hmm.
get to the lymph nodes, I think they're
Yeah.
called. And I was like, not trying to do that,
Yeah.
unless it need be. And so
Right.
it was just his suggestion. And so I'm like, someone told my wife, or maybe my wife found out, did her own research about taking some, I think it was apricot seeds. So I went to a natural food store and
Okay.
I was looking there. I guess they had them in this little refrigerated area. And we told the person at that place that, hey, do you have these? And as soon as they grabbed the bag for us, they're all, who has cancer?
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that's the first thing they said. You know what I mean? They don't know what I'm going to use that for.
Right.
And so I just started popping one of those seeds every day, and I believe they healed me. And soon after that, my levels started going down
Mm-hmm.
back to normal. But even after you're cleared, not
Mm-hmm.
officially cleared, but you're still have to come back for
Right.
testing. So I was
Mm-hmm.
doing that for a while.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I stopped going because I'm like, this is too much,
I did the same thing. My levels, when they got down to zero, and they kept staying at zero, kept staying at zero, and they wanted me to keep coming back. Even now, I think they still want me to come back. This is 99 when I was cleared. And I think to this day, they still want me to come back annually, but I haven't actually gotten tested.
Yeah, it's
Not
just
since Melissa and I have been together.
yeah,
So
and it take me out of the picture. It puts a lot in your family, you
it
know what I
does.
mean? It's just
It
like, and
does.
then you have to wait. That's
Yeah.
like, okay, is everything okay? It's just I was just done for a little bit. I need a break from this.
Yeah. I just finally accepted the healing. It's like he healed me.
Yes, yeah,
I'm healed.
yeah,
I'm not going back there.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have to. I was so thankful I didn't have to go through chemo.
Mm-hmm.
That was gonna be the next step if this
Yeah.
didn't work. And then so I feel for those who go through that. It's just I
Mm-hmm.
can't even imagine. I mean, just what I had to go through. I can't even imagine next level just doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
no. But once again, I was okay. He took care of us again. I'm like, wow. And I think around 2010, around that time, my grandma passes away.
Okay.
And she's kind of like the head of our family, so that was a tough
Matriarch.
loss right
Mhm.
there. She got to see me get married, but it's like I wanted her to see my grandkids, and that was really hard for us, for everyone. But then not too long after that, in 2011, we find out Teresa's pregnant.
Wow. Did you ever
Or I'm
think?
sorry, 2012, I think.
So
Teresa.
did you think that was a possibility
Um,
after the surgery?
the doctor said we might have to look into freezing. And I was okay with that. I'm just
Hmm.
glad to be alive.
Right.
Whoever he lets us have a baby, Lord lets us have a baby, it's gonna be great.
Hmm.
If not, it's okay. Let's become a dog person.
But you didn't have to just be a dog person.
And so she's pregnant. She comes down. I remember coming down the stairs, and she's pregnant. It was such an exciting
Oh
time,
yeah.
because we're going through that period of grief from my grandma passing. Then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, a new life
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
And so not too long after that, we're able to get a house not too far from Teresa's sister, and once we moved in, not too long after that, my son Elijah was born. So life's going good again. It's going great. And I forgot when. I want to say it's 2013, 14. My dad gets out. Oh yeah, so everything's coming together
Hmm.
again. Dad's home. And he's always been I mean, that poor guy, not only is doing time, he's also having to, back then he was dealing with knowing that I had cancer,
Hmm.
from what he would told me that he would just walk around the track for hours.
Oh,
People thought he was crazy because he would be walking around this hot weather, but he's just,
how helpless you
yeah,
feel.
exactly. He's stuck there and he can't
Yeah.
help his son. So I'm sure that was eating away at him. I remember when I told him I was cancer free, he goes, God, I
Oh,
get that relief from him
yeah.
because I think he was just going I think they had a pastor would come in there and
Hmm.
he'd pray with him. And so, yeah, that was probably made the rest of his time better. And so I forgot what year, it was 2014 or 15. I finally go back to the doctor. I know I haven't been there in a while. I start getting my scans again and I have to prepare for that. I mean,
Right.
okay, let's see. I've been absent for a
Right.
while. Let's see what goes down. God, please let me be okay. And so the doctor looks at me, and he was the one that operated on me. I forgot his name, but he smiles at me with his little envelope. He's all, I don't know, good news. I don't want you coming back here again. Huh.
Yeah.
That was, you can't put into words that relief. And once again, Father took care of us
Yeah.
again. So there goes that. So I passed that hurdle in my life. And then 2015, we find out Teresa's pregnant with twins. Wow. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, she's a twin herself,
She's a
so
twin. Yeah, she's a twin herself. Yeah. And then my
another
grandma was
thing.
a twin, and I got
Okay.
3 or 4 sets on my dad's
Well,
side.
so it's really not a surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
It was, but it
Yeah, I hit
wasn't.
the lotto with that one.
Right.
It's got to be me. So be it.
Yep. There you go.
And everything was going good again, but I was kind of not happy at work. But the only thing that made it bearable was I always had good coworkers. I was blessed, always good people in my life, friends, everything. That's the only thing I was kind of absent in my life, is just having a good job to be happy. Everything was good. And I should flash back, when I met my wife, I remember right before we got married, she was telling me, "Hey, just let you know I'm gonna be on this walk. And so listen, if you wanna, if we're gonna get married, I'm gonna ride this through. I'm not stopping." And I was not a practicing Catholic, so I'm like, sure, let's do this. At first I thought certain things were a little weird,
Right.
like going to certain feasts and going here. I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. We're gonna be doing this for 2 weeks.
Right.
I'm like, okay, what is this? Is it like a cult or something? But so slowly, I wasn't not into it at first, because what I don't know is I don't know. It's kind of
Right.
like questionable at first, but I started doing more things, going to feasts, church more, getting more into this,
Yeah.
something felt right. And it's now to get back to what I was getting at here. So I was in a bad situation with work, not crazy, but it's not happy there. And but then when someone approached me, I work at Costco, and there was an assistant manager from another building that approached me, and he goes, "Hey, we're kind of doing this new thing, and we thought you'd be good. You want to come and do this with us, become part of it." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that." It was kind of, I was in returns, and so it's kind of like that. This building they want to do is like a new venture. I go, "No, I'm not interested because I'm not." Still, but thank you, I appreciate the offer. And then one day I was at work, working returns, and I turn around and I see a group of people behind me, and there was a general manager, some managers there, and they're from the depot out there where they're wanting to build this return center. And they're, "Hey, Jeff, come on, just come on, try it out. I think you'll like it." I go, again, I was like, "I appreciate the offer. It's really kind of you guys, but it's just, I don't even like doing this. I don't want to do it on a large scale." And they're okay, okay. And then I ended up going to because every year we would do a meeting for the return center to find out the new stuff, new procedures. And so this assistant manager approached me again. He goes, "Jeff, come on." And I go, "No, I'm good, brother. I don't want this. I want to do this. I'm trying to put it nicely. I don't want to do this." He goes, "You'll get weekends off."
Wow.
I go, "Really?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And so I just, you know what? Why not? Let's do it. It's supposed to happen. It's been approached 3 times about this. And it being my favorite times with the company, it was a great experience. It was such a new thing, and it was almost like going to a new school for the first time, and you
Right.
found you have new friends, new relationships with people. It was beautiful. It was a great time. We are learning stuff together. COVID
Yeah.
hits, and it was definitely a trying time during
Right.
that. It's just, if you work in retail or anything that's kind of related to that, it was not fun to work there.
Right.
And where I lived at in California, I lived in a decent neighborhood, but I remember one day there was where me and Teresa are getting ready to go to bed, and I don't know if we had the twins yet, but all of a sudden we hear gunshots. And so we ducked down, crawling, and it happened to not be the neighbor across from us, but diagonal from us, I guess. And I'm like, wow, this is getting bad. And then I had my car stolen, people trying to even steal in our break into our other cars, on and on and on. So I'm like, okay. And my wife's pushing me to move out of California because she was born in Tennessee and wanted to come back home. I've been promising her for over a decade I'd move her back, and obviously I was not coming through on
So I
that
did not
promise.
know that. I did not know that
Oh,
they were from Tennessee.
yeah, they were born in Tennessee, and yeah, so it's just I kept, I was supposed to move her to Massachusetts for the
Okay.
longest time, and I kept pushing that off, and those years around COVID time, she was really pushed. She did not make it easy for me, and I love her for
Right.
that because it pushed me. She wants stuff done, and that's how
Yeah.
she is.
Yeah.
She was, "Let's do this. You promised, let's do this. You're right.
Mhm.
You're right. You're right." And so we started talking, my family and her sister's family, my sister-in-law, and we're talking about moving to Tennessee eventually. We've been planning it since like 2022. We've been talking about it. We
Okay.
set the table. What would we do? We promised each other, like, whoever moved out there first, we'd follow and we'd live in that person's household or wherever. And so in 2022, we come to Tennessee to check out the place, and we want to be close to our church, but near family
Right.
and also near work. So we had to make sure all three
Right.
was aligned. And I knew I would have some time. I'm like, there's no way this can happen. You know what I mean? This big move and everything for me to get a house and a transfer. There's no way I can
Right.
sell my house. There's no way I can get this steering. It wasn't a good time to sell a house back then.
Right.
It was winter. It's not the best time. So we get back in 2022. Sorry, we made a trip in 2022. We get back. And so as soon as we get back in 2022, December, I list my house. I put in a transfer. I'm all cool. I probably have at least a year or two. I'm good.
I have a similar story.
Yeah, but he had other plans. Within a couple of weeks, we get a bid on our house, a blind offer,
Yeah.
which is kind of sketchy. There's someone this makes a blind offer, especially where I lived in California. I'm like, why would you come here? But so it goes into escrow, and I was in contact with my current GM at Costco, well, here in Georgia, and we're trying to figure out how to get me over here. This
Hmm.
can't just be like magically just come and work
Right.
here. It's got to have an opening. There's a process, and so not too long after that, I get my transfer. Oh wow, this is real because I like even if the house, I'm like cool, I still have time. I can just go,
Hmm.
live with my sister-in-law or something.
Right.
But no, I got my transfer too. And he goes, "Hey, I need you here in 2 weeks." I go, "Brother," I go, "I don't know if I can get all my houses in escrow right now." I go, I'm like, "I need a little bit more time to get
Mhm.
over here." It's like, I gotta get a trailer. I don't know how I'm gonna get my stuff over there within that small time frame. And he goes, "Okay, I'll give you 3 weeks." Yes, sir.
All right.
And so we buy a cargo trailer and
Mhm.
we just come to Tennessee. But luck we have friends that were already out here
Mhm.
and I already had my travel trailer out on their property already. So we got blessed. I mean, it's not easy just from going to point A to point B. And,
Right.
thank God we had a plan and someone was able to
Mhm.
help us out because that would have been a whole different situation just moving here and
Mhm.
hoping for the best.
Right. Yeah, that happened for us in the winter of 21. February of 21. No, actually, it had to have been December because we came up for the Hanukkah conference. And we stayed at some people's house and we saw some property and we made a stupid offer which nobody would have ever accepted. Uh, and they accepted. And I'm like, well, I got to go home and sell my house. And I thought I had a lot of time. We called a buddy and he hadn't even listed the house. The house was supposed to go live Monday morning at 9. Well, at 7 o'clock in the morning, we had a line down the driveway, and within 6 hours, it was a conventional offer and then two cash backup offers within 6 hours. And by the end of February, we were down here with nowhere to go. We literally
Yeah.
burned the ship. Beginning of February, bought a cargo trailer, but what few items we didn't
Hmm.
sell in that. And then we slept in the bed of my Dodge Ram with a canopy over it in February while I cleared the land trying to get off the road. We slept our truck on the road. So yeah, when he moves fast.
Yes.
It's amazing how fast. When you're going in the direction you're supposed to go, the doors open.
Yeah, it's just and it is all him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's to me, there's no way I can that this happens, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
again divine intervention kicks in, and it's just like it's
yeah,
gonna happen. He makes the
because
impossible possible.
back then houses weren't selling.
Oh,
It's winter as it is, which is a bad time to sell a
hmm,
house. COVID's got the country shut down and nobody's doing anything. Yeah, it was crazy. There was just no way that any of it could have happened without divine intervention.
yeah, it's amazing because everything is, it's his plan. He makes it happen. He wants it to happen. It will
Yeah,
happen.
that's right.
And so since I mean, and everything's been good in Tennessee. Doesn't I mean we've always had our struggles here, but it's been good. And but I did come across one more trial
Mm,
during this time. I mean, once I was here, I became a supervisor again.
right.
And, because back when I transferred, I was a supervisor in Costco e-commerce, and I came over here as a regular cashier, and then I ended up moving back up the ranks again,
Mhm,
because once you're in that position of authority, you're just used
mhm.
to it, you know what I mean?
Right,
It wasn't even about the money because it was not a big pay difference for me, so
right.
but I do like helping people,
Hmm.
and I like teaching people, you know what I mean? It doesn't benefit me knowing what I know and not sharing the information and teaching people, whether
Hmm.
they're there for the short term or long term, so I did enjoy helping people. I didn't like my hours,
Right,
'cause, I was gone majority of the day and I still saw my wife and kids, but it's just not I'm used to working mornings.
right.
And so that was the hardest part, just not being there, like, during the day for the most part, the better part of the day, and, but then, I ended up getting demoted at work. So that was hard for me, and, it was just like 'cause I've always had a pretty good record, minus when I was younger, but
Hmm.
I've just never been in trouble like that.
Right.
And just, I remember tearing up, and it was hard for us, and 'cause my name's is getting kind of shamed in a way, and I understand why I got demoted, I get it,
Mhm.
if anyone wants to know, they can ask me, whenever they see me,
Yeah.
but I accepted it. I'm like, "Okay, it is what it is. I can either whine and complain or just let it be," you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, I ended up getting gon getting back and being a cashier again, for the company, but then I was able to eventually work back, get it myself in the mornings again, stocking,
Mhm.
merchandising.
Okay.
And that was, in a way, it was kind of a hidden blessing.
Mm.
And because I've been happy there, I've been happy doing that, and I'm content with doing that for now, and it's
Right.
just, I'm able to take care of my family, and that's what matters, and I meet a whole new group of people,
Hmm.
and, made me have joy for working for the company again,
Right.
I'm happy, my sanity's there for the workplace. So that's where we're at currently.
I like that because, that's one of those things that when people do decide, this podcast is really focused on those that are in um, hopeless situations or may not necessarily have an understanding like where we are now. And so there's always this question about, why do bad things happen to good people, right?
Hmm.
Which we can look at it that way. Why did something bad happen? But then you come around and you go, well, it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Hmm.
Now we can go through life with this victim mentality, like this happened to me, this was bad, this was horrible. But if we open our eyes, I mean, I can look at so many things that in my past I used to think were horrible, miserable things. Like I could just run around, poor me, poor me. But I can really look back and I can see, one specific incidents that I won't get into here because it's mine and my wife's testimony that we're going to share together. But had that one of the most horrible experience of my life, had that not happened, I wouldn't have what I have today and be blessed to the point that I would be willing to go through it all over again, knowing the outcome. It's amazing how, again, we started this in the beginning of this discussion of
Hmm.
how he can take the bad and use it for good. And I don't do a lot of Bible verses on here because, the intent here is to speak to people that may not have that information. I would challenge you to pick up a Bible and read it, though. But that is a biblical tenet, is that he does take the bad and make good of it, right?
Hmm.
So, and we can look in our lives and
You
see
can look
that.
at sorry to interrupt. You can look at James 1 where it says, consider it pure joy when you, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kind, because you know your faith, because you know that the testing of your faith will perseverance.
Right.
And that's like, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. I think like it's like the book has so many answers. You know what I mean? Where you
Mhm.
don't think it does. It's just like wow.
I think it's a very underrated book, the Book of James. A lot of people, I think, skip over that one. That's one of my favorite. I love the Book of James. The fact that we get to sit here and we get to have these discussions and we get to share this with the people out there is just living proof to what that really means. Because we talked before actually sitting and turning the
Mhm.
microphones on about how, like, my testimony may not speak to the people that your testimony will, right? Each one of us has a testimony. And without that testimony, I wouldn't be able to reach the person sitting on the other side of the camera right now. Same thing for you. I mean, there's somebody out there that has lived your experience and is looking for the hope to try to get through that. And you can speak to that. So the fact that he trusted us enough with the experience, even though it hurt in the moment, we're able to see through that and go, okay, he trusted me enough to have that experience so that I can deliver it to that individual sitting out there. And so this is where I always hit everybody with this particular request, and that is to look in to that camera, look through that camera. Little Jeff is sitting on the other side. There's that person is sitting out there. Maybe a parent's getting ready to go away, or maybe they're getting ready to undergo, they've gotten a diagnosis and they're getting ready to undergo procedures or treatment or any of the number of things that you experience, but they don't know what we know now. What did you need to hear? What would you say to them on the other side? Speak into them.
That it's gonna be okay. The Father allows this stuff to happen. You may not understand it at the moment, and it might not even make sense, but it's gonna be okay. He allows this to happen. It defines us as we grow older. You know, it's not you can't just go through life not having trials. I pray you don't have to go through anything difficult, but it's gonna be okay. Just know that no matter what, you will overcome this, and you might not even like the outcome, but it will be okay. I'm not gonna say it'll never happen again. I'm not gonna say you'll never face another hurdle in life, but there there is something greater for you. And just trust in God and it will be okay. I promise.
So, what's one thing that you can look at? I mean, there's a lot of things in my past that challenged me to make decisions for those in my life so that they weren't affected the way that I was affected. Now, that doesn't mean all the decisions that I made were the right
Yeah.
decisions, but in the moment when I was making those decisions, I was making them because I felt like I was protecting the people
Mhm.
around me. And so tell me how that affected like some of the decisions makings that maybe you've made with your children, how you're maybe protecting them, or your wife, how maybe you protect her now. And maybe some of those decisions weren't right in the moment, but you knew you were making those decisions for that reason. And some of them may have been absolutely wonderful and the right reason to do that. But let's talk a little bit about that.
Like one more time?
Like, I mean, your dad's
Mhm.
lifestyle, obviously, when you had kids, you didn't want to repeat that for them,
Yes, no,
right?
no.
So, like my mom, she took her own life back in 1995, and that obviously was an impact for a very young individual. So I always was told that, suicidal people bred suicidal people, basically that premise. You were at a
Mm,
higher chance of
yeah.
committing suicide if you had a parent committed suicide. And so one of the things that just in my self-disclosure is I would get into depressive times, and then there would this fear come over me that because I'm depressed, I'm going to
Mhm.
kill myself. And so because I'm going to kill myself, I can't be around my children. And so I would leave,
Yeah.
right? Which then ended up wasn't the right thing to do. I thought
Mhm.
I was protecting them, not
Yes,
realizing that
yes, yes.
actually I can deal with
Mhm.
depression. There's ways to deal with depression, but I didn't understand that at the time.
Mhm.
Not to justify my decisions because they were wrong, but they did impact my kids in a negative way. So I was just wondering if you'd had any experience like that, even if it's a positive way, if
No,
it
no,
was a
thank you
good
for
decision.
breaking that down. I get
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying. I looked at my situation as almost like a guideline of
Mm-hmm.
not to say well, what to do, what can I do to prevent this from
Mm-hmm.
happening, and it was a great blueprint. So I'm like, okay, I can pass on to them like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be like my dad and be giving, loving, but not do the other things. And so that part he really made that easy for me how to, because he always wanted to take care of his kids. He wanted to
Uh-huh.
make sure they're successful and he achieved that goal. People define success here and
Sure.
whatever, but it's
Yeah.
like, I know he's happy that we're all successful in
Uh-huh.
life, and his life is my blueprint, just like I said
Okay.
earlier. It's just like take care of your family, just do the right thing. My dad taught us, a certain, how to take care of people, and I teach my kids that. I'm like, hey, be better than me. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I feel like I got from him, and I achieved that. And I even tell my kids, be better than me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect you to be like me, but I want you to be better. I want you to dig in your Bible. I want you to be stronger in your faith. I'm getting there, but I want to pass that to them. Don't try to take shortcuts in life. It's
Right.
not going to benefit you. I promise you. And my parents are a living example of that. They've had some very unfortunate stuff that's happened to them,
Mm-hmm.
but I use that as a guideline to, like, okay, I got to do it this way. And I found success in that. And now I can pass that information to my kids. I haven't told them the full story of went
Sure.
down, little bits and pieces maybe
Mm-hmm.
to my son. But so far, I feel like we've been doing a good job.
Oh, I think you guys do amazing. You're some amazing kids.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. I love
And
it when they show up to help. They are servants, man.
they are
They
they're
work.
also characters,
They
especially the
yeah,
twins.
they are. They love to work.
And
Mhm.
it's like it's crazy to think that just how one person's like the negativity in your life can just benefit another. It's I don't know
Mhm.
if you get what I'm putting,
Absolutely, yeah. That's
and
what
it's a
this
trip, and it's
premise of
just
this entire
mhm.
podcast.
And so I just yeah, I don't know if I got to answer your question or not, but
You did. You did. I think you did amazing. That's really great. Was there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience? Is there anything else we haven't touched on?
No, I think I want to circle back to just let
Okay.
everyone just even the I would say more to our youth, it's just hang in there. I think Mike and I are a perfect example that hey, if you just jump those hurdles and keep going, even
Yeah.
though they keep getting higher and higher, it's gonna be okay.
Right.
This life is not easy,
Mhm.
but like the Father allows it, just keep on going, and you get to enjoy the gifts that he provides along the way, and I'm telling you, it is so awesome.
I actually had heard something this week that kind of put it in perspective
Mhm.
to me. And that was, people ask, where's God in all of this, all this tragedy, all of this chaos, where's God in all this? And I listen to a lot of stuff. I watch a lot of YouTube videos from motivational stuff. And I heard somebody say that, I remember being in school. Now, this isn't me saying this. This
Mhm.
is, I wish I could give credit to the individual that said it because I don't remember their name. He said, I remember being in school during the tests. The teacher was always quiet. Only after the test did we get to hear from the teacher. And that was very impactful to me. It's like, oh my gosh. Because I remember that. Yeah, I can remember, what two tests I did take for what limited
Yeah.
time I was in school. But yeah, when you're in the middle of the test, like you don't get to talk. You don't. there's no feedback. You should have
Hmm.
already, studied
Yes.
and figured it out and have the answers there to put on the sheet, and you're going to get the feedback afterwards. And so, just because there's silence doesn't mean the teacher's absent, right? He's there.
No, I like that. That's just
Yeah,
really
it's
good,
very
because
impactful
they
for me.
if someone could easily just go and say, "Oh, where was God here? Where was the
Mhm.
Lord?"
I did.
I don't know if I've ever thought that, but I
Yeah.
just knew, believe it or not, I knew it was gonna be okay even during
Mhm.
that moment. Maybe I guarantee there's probably some why me moments,
Yeah.
but he was always there.
Yeah.
It's definitely sometimes a tough pill to swallow when you're just in the moment, but he is there.
Yeah. Amen. Well, brother, I appreciate you taking the time to come in and,
Yeah, thank you for having me.
take time away from your family to be here and sit with us and share with our people out there. I know this is going to be an amazing reach into somebody's life. And with that, I'd just like to look at all of you and let you all know that we appreciate you taking. I know you all got busy schedules. You got something going on. You got somewhere to be, and for you just taking the opportunity to sit here and listen to us while we share, it really means a lot. Uh, I don't know if anybody's told you today, but I want you to know that I love you and that God loves you, and don't give up hope. There is always something on the other side that's going to be better. So just keep going through, strap up your boots, keep moving forward. You're going to get through this, and remember to look up. If you need prayer, comment in the comment section, and we'll be glad to reach out to you and pray with you. If you need a Bible, just let us know, and we'll figure out a way to get you a Bible. Whatever you need, comment down below, let us know, and we'll reach out. All right. We love you. Thank you for spending your time with us, and we'll see you on the next episode. God bless. Bye.